Back to the US, where President Trump has been cracking down on immigration at the country's southern border. Growing numbers of military and law enforcement officials are being deployed there. Meanwhile, militia-style groups have renewed offers to protect the frontier. It's leading to frustration for residents critical of Donald Trump's immigration policies. Our correspondent Stefan Simons reports from the US-Mexico border.
It was these images which reached many Americans in December 2023, which arguably helped give credibility to President Trump's position on immigration.
The United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime.
Just 5 weeks back in the White House, Trump took to X now to celebrate, quote, the lowest number of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country in history, end quote. Trump's boast follows a post by the U.S. Border Patrol chief saying that in February this year, U.S. BP, quote, apprehended 8,326 illegal aliens at the U.S.-Mexico border, making it the lowest month in recorded history, end quote. Eagle Pass, Texas, a forward operating base of the Texas National Guard. With us is America Garcia-Grewal, a local pro-immigration activist. She is concerned about what she calls the increasing and unnecessary militarization of Eagle Pass and other border towns.
If you talk to these folks, again, many of whom have combat experience, they keep comparing it to foreign countries. And it's like, we're not a foreign country. We're in the United States.
About 1,500 National Guard personnel are deployed in Eagle Pass, not just since a few weeks ago, but since February 2024. Their mission? To support Customs and Border Protection with their job, protecting the border.
We've had a very quiet time here in Eagle Pass and along the border since December of 2023, when the Biden administration went to Mexico City and started working with the Mexican government to slow the flow of migration.
However, Trump's actions to, as he puts it, shield the U.S. from an onslaught of illegal immigrants is music to the ears of many private militia-type groups in California, New Mexico, Arizona, and in Texas. One of them, the Patriots for America militia.
We're a Christ-centered, we're a 508c1a nonprofit ministry that just so happens to also be a militia.
The PFA militia operates in and around Eagle Pass and in other parts along the U.S.-Mexico border. Their self-declared mission simply to support federal border patrol agents in their battle against illegal immigrants, the cartels and traffickers.
We typically operate with 15 to 20 guys on any rotation.
PFA, Hall insists, operates within the confines of the law. Donald Trump back in the Oval Office is a gift to them.
It's like waking up every day to Christmas. Now that Trump is in office, hopefully we can get away or at least tone down our border initiative.
Meanwhile, America Garcia-Grewal fears things will get even worse for Eagle Pass and other U.S. border towns, with more soldiers expected to come. On the orders of the president, the Pentagon just announced it will send some 3,000 more active duty troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, bringing the total number to roughly 12,000 deployed along the frontier.
Well, that report from our correspondent, Stefan Simons, who joins us now from Washington. Oh, welcome, Stefan. So why has Vice President Vance gone down to the border?
Well, he wants to reiterate that, of course, the Donald Trump and the Trump administration is doing as they had promised in the campaign, that they do everything to increase security at the border. That means not only rounding up illegal immigrants, allegedly illegal immigrants here in the United States, but also really putting more assets, military, National Guard, to the border. He will also definitely use the opportunity to actually thank the troops who are already there, and that's quite a bit. As you heard in the piece, 1,500 National Guard just in Eagle Pass. This is a small town, and we were just there and actually witnessed pretty much empty detention centers and National Guard troops who were more bored than anything else, because as the president rightfully pointed out, as also seen in the piece, the numbers have significantly dropped of people who are trying to come into the United States. That explains the roughly 8,500, only 8,500 pickups at the border in the month of February along the entire U.S.-Mexico border.
OK, and what concerns did people down there at the border share with you about this increased troop deployment?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, you have to imagine those border towns are most of the time fairly small. Of course, the United States has some major port of entries, Tijuana, for example, San Diego. This is big. But along the border in Texas or in Arizona also, there's a lot of small towns where maybe just a few hundred or a few thousand people live. Now, if you put, and the United States is about to put 12,000 in total, 12,000 military personnel towards the border, let alone if they are necessary or not. You put that much of strain on a community, they feel it and they're not all happy. We talk to people in Eagle Pass. They say that they're really out of bounds with so many National Guard troops there. It puts a strain on them. They don't want this. And they say it's not necessary because, again, messaging here by the Trump administration was, don't come, we'll catch you and we'll throw you out. Apparently that has been heard. And there's not many people coming anymore. Meaning, for locals, they say, we don't need that many troops. Let Border Customs and Border Patrol do their jobs. They seem to be able to carry the stick now, and we don't need the soldiers anymore.
OK, thanks for that, Stefan. DW correspondent Stefan Simons. Let's get more on this from Andra Gillespie, who's a political scientist and associate professor at Emory University. She joins us from Atlanta. Welcome back to DW. Let's pick up that point that we just addressed there with Stefan. What do you see as the implications of an increased US military presence on the border?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the increased military presence reflects a number of different things. I think this helps to highlight and reinforce the idea that border security and taking care of the problem of undocumented immigrants flowing into the United States is a high priority of the Trump administration. I think they want to send a show of force as a means of deterrence, and they want to try to maintain the low border crossing numbers that they experienced in February. And this is also a different way to kind of get at a challenge that President Trump had in his last administration. His proposed deterrent in his first administration was to build a border wall. He really wasn't able to really expand the existing border wall by much. So he did add some feet to it, but he really wasn't able to completely cover the entire U.S. border. And then there's also just the sort of practical reality that part of our U.S. border is not sort of necessarily all going to be contiguous land that's not interrupted by water and other types of things, which would make it really difficult to have just one big wall across the border. But by showing this force of strength, he is demonstrating that he is keeping a key campaign promise, something that has animated his campaigns as long as he has been actively running for political office. And I think in doing so, I think he hopes to show results by actually having the deterrence that his administration has been bragging about, and certainly bragged about last night in his State of the Union, his joint address to Congress.
And we saw in our report that there seem to be these private militias are also working to prevent the entry of migrants into the US. What's the sort of what's their legal status?
Well, there have long been private militias in the United States and private militias on the U.S. border trying to contribute to weighing in on this immigration issue. We know that after President Trump was elected in November, that private militias offered their services to try to help protect the U.S. border. President Trump did not formally accept their offers. And the question about private militias is, really relates to liability. So I would not expect the Trump administration to formally accept their offers. And then the question would be if militias or vigilantes try to take matters into their own hands and enforce the borders, do they do something that goes beyond legal boundaries that actually opens up the people who are involved in these militias to legal exposure? So if they do something to harm somebody, if they kill somebody in the commission of trying to protect the border, they're going to be legally responsible for that. And so they won't be able to use, some type of qualified immunity that you might see somebody who is actually acting on behalf of the U.S. government in a formal capacity might have.
Right. OK, it's only been 6 weeks, but he's delivering, as you say, on a promise. Is that delivery being celebrated there?
Well, if you look at public opinion polls in the United States where they're tracking job approval ratings, They not only just ask the generic, do you approve or disapprove of the job that President Trump is doing, but they'll also ask about specific issues. And those really relate to some of the key campaign themes of the 2024 election. So the economy, immigration, inflation, the war in Gaza, foreign policy. If we look at the key areas that Real Clear Politics is actually tracking aggregate information on, what we see is that on average, President Trump is net negative on almost all of those key issues, but the one place where his job approval rating is net positive is on immigration. And so immigration was a key issue for people in his constituency. And I think what he's benefiting from is just the idea that he is doing something about the border.
Right.
And so people appreciate the fact that he is taking action. And so what we'll see is now that we've seen a decrease in border crossings, does that actually even further enhance people's perception of his activity in this area?
Okay, thank you for that fascinating analysis. Thank you for it. Andra Gillespie from the Emory University. Thank you so much.
Thank you.